She leans in and tells you she's different, not like the others, not into games, not chasing attention, not interested in surface level stuff. She says she wants something real, something meaningful, connection, loyalty, a man with substance. And a part of you relaxes. Because if you've dated for any amount of time, you've seen the cycles: excitement, confusion, mixed signals, strong beginnings that fade into ambiguity. So when someone says, I want depth, it sounds like relief. Like maybe you finally met someone who wants the same thing you want, but then you notice something. The story doesn't feel consistent. Not because of one detail, not because of a dress, a photo, a night out, or one conversation. It's the overall pattern, the total message, the gap between what's being said and what's being shown. And that gap, the mismatch between words and patterns, is where a lot of men lose time, money, energy, and years of their life. Here's the principle that will save you pain. When someone's words and their recurring behavior don't match, don't argue with the words. Measure the pattern, because words are cheap, and not in an insulting way, just in a human way. People say what they wish were true. They say what sounds good. They say what will keep the moment going. They say what protects their self image. And sometimes they say what will get them what they want, even if they don't fully admit to themselves that's what they're doing. Most people aren't villains, they're simply inconsistent. And inconsistency is still information. So today, we're going to talk about something every man needs at a fundamental level: how to evaluate alignment without paranoia, without bitterness, and without being fooled by a good speech. Because I want something real is not a personality, it's a sentence, characters of what someone repeatedly does. 1. The two stories. Everyone tells, every person tells two stories. The first story is the one they say out loud: their identity, their values, their intentions. It's the version of themselves they want to be or want to be seen as. The second story is the one they live: what they prioritize with their time, attention, money, habits, friends, and decisions, especially when nobody is watching. If you're serious about choosing wisely, you have to listen to both stories. Because here's what psychology and real life agree on: intentions can be sincere and still unreliable. Someone can genuinely believe they want stability while constantly choosing chaos. They can genuinely believe they value loyalty while keeping one foot out the door. They can genuinely believe they want depth while building their life around shallow reinforcement. That isn't always manipulation. Sometimes it's lack of self awareness. Sometimes it's unresolved needs. Sometimes it's a person trying to outrun boredom, insecurity, loneliness, or fear of intimacy. But whether it's deliberate or unconscious, the result is the same. You experience the pattern, not the intention. So your job isn't to argue with somebody's self description. Your job is to ask one question: what does the pattern tell me this person actually values? 2. Why men get trapped by words. Men are vulnerable in a specific way. A lot of men don't get consistent emotional validation. They don't get pursued often. They don't get told they're special every week. So when a woman shows interest and speaks in a way that hits your ideals — I want loyalty, I want real, I want commitment — it can feel like water in the desert. And that's the danger. Because your brain starts filling in blanks. You start projecting. She's mature. She's serious. She sees me. You start building a future out of sentences. But your future doesn't happen in sentences. It happens in choices. And one of the fastest ways to wreck your life is to commit to a person's potential while ignoring their pattern. This is why the early stage matters so much. Selection is where you either protect your future or gamble with it. 3. A simple rule that actually works. Here's a rule you can keep forever. Consistency beats intensity. Lots of people are intense. Intensity is cheap. Intensity can be manufactured. Intensity can be a mood. Consistency is expensive. Consistency requires real priorities. It requires discipline. It requires the ability to regulate emotion, delay gratification, and act with integrity when nobody's clapping. So when someone tells you who they are, don't challenge them. Don't debate it. Don't try to catch them. Just observe. Do their actions repeatedly support the identity they're claiming? If yes, you may have something. If no, you have clarity. 4. Presentation. What it does and what it doesn't mean. Now let's talk about presentation because this is where people get stupid fast. Presentation matters. It does. Communicate things. We all know that. We dress differently for a job interview than a beach day. We present differently in a courtroom than at a party. Well, we understand context instinctively. But here's the mistake. Some men treat presentation as a verdict. A revealing outfit does not automatically prove someone's character. A modest outfit does not automatically prove someone's virtue. One night out does not define a person. One photo does not define a person. So, what's the correct way to handle presentation? Don't treat it as a moral label. Treat it as a signal inside a larger pattern. Presentation can communicate what environment someone expects to be in, what kind of attention they're comfortable receiving, what social norms they're following, how they want to feel that night, how they want to be perceived. But the key word is can. It's not a courtroom conviction, it's data. And the mature man does something simple with data. He doesn't panic. He doesn't worship it. He doesn't rage at it. He tracks it over time. If someone says they hate attention, but constantly organizes their life around being seen, that's a mismatch worth noting. If someone says they want something serious, but repeatedly chooses contexts that make seriousness unlikely, that's worth noting. Not because you're controlling, not because you're judging, because you're selecting. And selection is not cruelty. Selection is responsibility. 5. Environments don't lie, but they also aren't destiny. Your environment shapes your behavior, and your choices reveal your environment. If someone spends most weekends in places designed for quick, shallow interaction, places where alcohol, noise, and performance replace conversation, that doesn't make them a bad person. But it does raise a practical question. Is this person's lifestyle compatible with the kind of relationship I want to build? That's the real filter. Compatibility. A man who wants a stable, low drama life should not voluntarily attach himself to a high drama lifestyle and then act surprised. Here's what smart men do: they don't try to turn a mismatch into a mission. They don't date someone who lives one way and then attempt to negotiate them into living another way through pressure, jealousy, or lectures. They simply choose someone whose life already aligns with what they want. Because the best relationships aren't built on arguments, they're built on shared defaults. 6. Attention and validation, the core issue behind most chaos. Let's go deeper than clothes and clubs, because those are just surface. The real engine behind a lot of relationship instability is validation hunger. Some people, men and women, are not simply social. They are dependent. They don't just enjoy attention, they need it to regulate their mood. And when a person needs external validation, the way someone needs caffeine, they become predictable. They chase. Novelty. They test boundaries, they seek backup options. They create triangles, they keep the door open. Just in case. They feel restless when peace shows up. Not because they're evil, because they're untrained, unhealed, unaware. So your job isn't to shame them. Your job is to ask, do I want to build my life with a person who needs constant external input to feel okay? Because that need doesn't disappear when you commit. It often gets worse because commitment reduces novelty. It reduces the dopamine spike. It forces real intimacy, which can feel threatening to someone who's built their identity on performance. And here's the brutal truth: a person who needs attention more than they need integrity will eventually prioritize attention. 7. Social media, the cleanest window into priorities. If you want to understand someone's incentives, look at what they repeatedly reinforce. Social media is a reinforcement machine. It teaches people what gets rewarded. So, don't stalk, don't obsess, don't become a detective. Just use common sense observation. Ask, what do they consistently post? What identity are they building publicly? What kind of attention do they seem to enjoy? Do they show a balanced life, friends, family, work, hobbies, growth, or is it mostly performance? Do they seem peaceful or constantly thirsty for reaction? Again, no single post matters. Patterns matter because patterns reveal priorities, and priorities reveal outcomes. 8. The standards. Conversation most men avoid. Modern dating punishes men who pretend they have no standards. A man without standards becomes a resource: emotional, financial, sexual, practical. He becomes a tool people use while they figure themselves out. So you need standards, and not fake standards like she's hot. Real standards like, is she consistent? Is she accountable? Does she tell the truth when it costs her? Does she respect boundaries without punishing you for having them? Does she have stable friendships and a stable routine? Does she handle conflict with maturity or with threats and silent treatment? Does her lifestyle match what she claims to want? That's not being judgmental. That's being adult. And you should expect her to have standards too. A healthy relationship is two people evaluating each other honestly, not one person auditioning while the other pretends not to notice reality. 9. Categories: short term, long term, or no access. This part matters, and most men refuse to do it because they want everything to work. Not everyone you're attracted to is a long term match. Some people are fun but unstable, exciting but inconsistent, charming but self centered, beautiful but addicted to chaos. You don't have to hate them. You don't have to insult them. You don't have to expose them. You just have to categorize accurately. A mature man has three categories. 1. Long term potential, consistent values, stable lifestyle, trustworthy behavior. 2. Short term only, attraction is there, but alignment and stability are not. 3. No access, disrespect, manipulation, dishonesty, boundary violations. A lot of men get hurt because they take someone from category 2 and try to force category 1. That's not love. That's denial. Love is not blind. Love is clear eyed commitment to a person who is actually capable of reciprocating. 10. How to handle pushback without becoming controlling. Here's a test that will save you. When you express a boundary or preference, watch the response. A healthy person can hear, I'm not comfortable with that. That doesn't work for me. I'm looking for something different. And respond with respect, even if they disagree. An unhealthy person responds with shaming, guilt accusations, punishment. If you loved me, you wouldn't care. You're insecure. You're controlling. Now, sometimes people misuse the word controlling, but real control is when you try to force someone to live your values. A boundary is different. A boundary is, I'm not forcing you. I'm choosing what I participate in. That's the frame of a strong man. You don't argue. You don't beg. You don't lecture. You simply decide what kind of relationship you're building and with whom. 11. The quiet reality. Your life will resemble your partner's patterns. This is the part men forget. Your partner doesn't just date you, they shape you. Your mood will be affected by their habits. Your finances will be affected by their decisions. Your reputation will be affected by their behavior. Your peace will be affected by their emotional stability. Your future children, if you want them, will be affected by their character. So when you choose, you're not choosing a vibe, you're choosing a trajectory. That's why it's insane to build a serious life with someone whose life is built on inconsistency. You can survive that in your early 20s. You pay for it in your 30s. And you drown in it if you drag it into marriage, mortgages, and kids. So, yes, observe, but observe like a grown man, not like a bitter one. You're not looking for reasons to condemn, you're looking for reasons to trust. 12. The gold standard, congruence. If you remember one word, remember this congruence. Congruence is when a person's words, choices, habits, friendships, lifestyle boundaries, long term goals all point in the same direction. Congruent people are rare. They aren't perfect, but they're aligned. And aligned people are safe to build with. Incongruent people can still be kind, fun, and attractive. But they are risky because you don't know which version of them you're dating. The version they describe or the version their habits reveal. A smart man doesn't gamble his future on which version shows up later. 13. Practical screening, what to watch. Early. If you want actionable filters without turning dating into paranoia, use these. Time use. What do they do repeatedly when they're free? Friend circle. Do their close friends live stable lives or chaotic ones? Conflict style. Do they repair or do they punish? Accountability. Can they admit fault without turning it into a performance? Impulse control. Do they chase every feeling or can they pause? Consistency. Are they the same person across settings or do they shapeshift for different audiences? Respect. Do they respect no the first time? These filters don't require spying, they require patience. And patience is what most men don't want to pay up front, so they pay later with interest. 14. Closing. Be calm. Be clear. Choose well. Here's the final truth. You don't need to be angry at people who are inconsistent. You don't need to make speeches about how the world is broken. You don't need to hate anyone. You just need to stop confusing chemistry with compatibility. You need to stop treating words as proof, and you need to stop trying to build a serious life with someone whose patterns are built for something else. A strong man does not need to control. He selects. He watches patterns. He trusts consistency. He respects himself enough to walk away from misalignment early. Because the right woman, someone genuinely ready for depth, won't just say the right things. Her life will back it up. And when words and life finally match, you won't feel confused at the table. You'll feel steady. That's the goal. Not drama, not mind games. Steady. Choose steady.